Hey everyone, for millennia, it feels like two giants have been duking it out, science and religion. One is all about data, experiments, what you can measure. The other, that's about faith and belief. But what if that whole versus thing isn't the whole story?
I mean, we've all seen it, right? Science versus religion. It's so often framed like this epic battle for the ultimate truth, a zero-sum game that's been raging for centuries. And that idea that they have to be in conflict is it's everywhere.
But what if, this whole time, we've been looking at it all wrong? What if the very question we keep asking is the problem? The one that forces us into these opposing camps and doesn't actually get us anywhere useful?
All right, so let's dive into this. The big question, the one that's always at the center of the debate, is does God exist? But here's the thing. From a purely scientific standpoint, that question is, well, it's kind of useless. Let me explain why.
So science lives and dies by the scientific method. To test something, you need to be able to poke it, prod it, change a variable, and then measure what happens. But you can't exactly put God in a test tube, You can't have a God group and a no-God control group for an experiment. It's literally outside the toolkit of science.
And this quote just nails the issue perfectly. A scientist can look at all the data and say, look, I don't see any empirical evidence for God. And that's a totally fair statement. But, and this is the key part, because they can't run that impossible experiment, they also can't disprove it. It's a scientific dead end.
So, okay, let's just toss that old question out for a minute and ask a much more interesting one. A question science can actually sink its teeth into. Instead of arguing about the unprovable, what if we just look at what we can measure? What actually happens to people, to their bodies, their minds, their happiness, when they get involved with faith or spiritual practices?
And once you make that shift, once you start looking at the effects, the data is, well, it's kind of mind-blowing. We're talking about huge studies that follow thousands of people for decades, and they all point to this incredibly strong link between faith and, of all things, your health.
Okay, look at this number, 30%. Just let that sink in for a second. What on earth could that be? It's a massive number, and honestly, it's one of the most significant findings in this whole area of research. That 30%, that's the reduction in your risk of dying from anything over a 15 or 20-year period if you regularly engage with your faith. And let me be clear, this isn't some tiny one-time study. This is from massive, long-term data sets that have tracked people for years and years.
And it doesn't even stop there. The data also points to a roughly 25% drop in deaths from both heart disease and cancer. On top of that, these practices seem to act like a serious shield against anxiety and depression, giving people a stronger sense of purpose and meaning in their lives. The health benefits are just stacked.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, but isn't this just about having a community? Couldn't I get the same thing from joining a book club or a bowling league? And that's a great question. Community is absolutely a huge piece of the puzzle. But when researchers compare the two, the health and happiness boost is noticeably, significantly bigger for religious communities. So yeah, something else is going on here. So if it's not just community, what is it? What are the actual mechanics behind this? This is where it gets really cool. We can actually look at these ancient rituals almost like pieces of technology. Spiritual tech designed over thousands of years to literally change our brains and our bodies. Check this out. There was this incredible experiment. Researchers set it up so that participants would see an actor on crutches who was clearly in a lot of pain. Now, in the regular group, only about 15% of people offered their seat. But get this, in the group that had just done an 8-week meditation program, almost 50% helped. That is a tripling of compassionate action. Wild, right? So what's happening in the body to cause this? A big part of it comes down to something called vagal tone. The simplest way to think about it is this. You have this thing called the vagus nerve, and it's like your body's built-in calm-down system. When you have high vagal tone, it's like you're better at hitting the brakes on stress, which improves your mood, and it's just really good for your overall health.
And guess what? So many ancient practices are basically vagal tone 101. Take something like reciting a memorized prayer, like the rosary, for example. What does it do? It automatically makes you breathe slower. It makes your exhales longer. And that physical action directly increases your vagal tone. It's your body sending a message straight to your brain that says, hey, everything's okay. We're safe.
And here's another piece of this spiritual tech. It's called motor synchrony. It sounds fancy, but it just means moving together. Think about it. Singing or chanting in a group, swaying or kneeling at the same time.
When we do that, our brains get this deep subconscious signal. We are connected. We are one team. And that feeling is incredibly powerful. It's been shown to skyrocket feelings of compassion, making people way more likely to help each other out.
Okay, so let's pull all this together. What we're seeing is that these ancient spiritual practices, they aren't just abstract beliefs. They're like these incredibly sophisticated tools, technologies really, that have real, measurable positive effects on our health, our minds, and our communities.
Which, of course, leads to the big, fascinating question. Are these practices divinely inspired, a gift from a creator? Or are they just incredibly clever human inventions, figured out over thousands of years of trial and error? And you know what the most powerful insight might be? It's that maybe we don't actually have to answer that question to see how valuable they are.
There's this ancient piece of wisdom that I think fits perfectly here. It says, we will do, and then we will understand. It's this idea that you don't always get it by just thinking about it. Sometimes you have to jump in and do the thing first. The understanding, the real insight, that comes later, through the experience itself.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. What if we shifted our perspective? What if we stopped treating these traditions like a court case, a set of beliefs that have to be proven true or false? And what if, instead, we started seeing them for what the data seems to be showing us they are, a powerful, time-tested user's guide for the human mind?